The Time Traveler's English Tutor. The Time Traveler's English Tutor, Part 1. A Grammar of Time. The air crackled with an almost imperceptible energy as a shimmering portal materialized in the quiet study of Miss Evelyn Ainsworth, a seasoned English tutor with a penchant for tweed jackets and a comforting scent of Earl Grey tea perpetually lingering in the air. Out stepped a figure clad in a sleek silver suit, looking both bewildered and intrigued by the antique furniture and overflowing bookshelves. "Greetings, Miss Ainsworth," the figure said, their voice tinged with an unplaceable accent. "I am Agent Xylo, and I require your expertise." Evelyn, though startled by the sudden appearance of a stranger who seemed to have stepped out of a science fiction film, retained her composure. Years of dealing with unpredictable students had equipped her with an unwavering sense of calm. "Welcome, Agent Xylo," she replied, gesturing towards a comfortable armchair. "Please, have a seat. How can I assist you?" Agent Xylo, with a slight awkwardness that hinted at their unfamiliarity with 21st century social customs, explained their predicament. They were a time traveler from the future, tasked with a crucial mission that involved interacting with individuals from various historical periods. Their mission's success hinged on their ability to communicate effectively in English, a language that had undergone significant transformations over the centuries. Evelyn, though initially skeptical, found herself captivated by Xylo's story. The prospect of teaching English to a time traveler was a challenge she couldn't resist. "I must confess, Agent Xylo," she said with a twinkle in her eye, "your situation is quite unique. However, I believe I can help you master the intricacies of the English language across time and space." And so began the most unconventional tutoring session of Evelyn's career. She started with the basics, introducing Xylo to the fundamental building blocks of English grammar: nouns, verbs, adjectives, and the ever-elusive articles. Xylo, with a mind honed for temporal mechanics and advanced technology, found the seemingly simple rules of English grammar surprisingly challenging. "Why?" they questioned with a furrowed brow. "Must a noun sometimes be preceded by a or the? It seems arbitrary." Evelyn, with the patience of a saint, explained the concept of definiteness and indefiniteness, using examples from everyday life and literature. She introduced Xylo to the beauty of Shakespearean sonnets, the wit of Oscar Wilde, and the evocative prose of Jane Austen. Xylo, though initially struggling with the unfamiliar sentence structures and archaic vocabulary, gradually began to grasp the underlying logic of the language. Their advanced cognitive abilities allowed them to absorb information at an accelerated pace, but they also encountered unexpected hurdles. "This present perfect continuous tense," Xylo lamented, "it feels like a temporal paradox." Evelyn chuckled, understanding Xylo's frustration. "English grammar can indeed be perplexing, even for native speakers," she conceded. "But with practice and perseverance, you will master it." She devised creative exercises, incorporating Xylo's unique perspective as a time traveler. They practiced constructing sentences about historical events, imagining conversations with famous figures from the past, and even writing fictional narratives about their own time-traveling adventures. As the days turned into weeks, Xylo's grasp of English grammar strengthened. They could confidently conjugate verbs, construct complex sentences, and even appreciate the subtle nuances of different sentence structures. However, Evelyn knew that mastering grammar was only the first step in Xylo's linguistic journey. The real challenge lay in understanding the ever-evolving nature of English, its slang, idioms, and cultural nuances that varied across different historical periods. Agent Xylo, Evelyn said, a mischievous glint in her eye. Prepare yourself for a journey through the fascinating tapestry of the English language, a journey through time itself. The Time Traveler's English Tutor, Part 2, A Linguistic Odyssey Through Time. With a solid foundation in English grammar, Xylo was ready to embark on a linguistic odyssey through time. Evelyn, armed with a vast collection of historical texts, audio recordings, and even holographic simulations, transformed her study into a time-traveling classroom. Our journey begins in the Anglo-Saxon era, Evelyn announced, her voice echoing with the gravitas of a seasoned historian. She projected a holographic image of a bustling medieval village, complete with thatched roof houses and villagers clad in rough-spun tunics. Xylo, immersed in the virtual environment, listened intently as Evelyn introduced them to Old English, the ancestor of the language they were striving to master. The guttural sounds and unfamiliar syntax were a far cry from the polished English of the 21st century. Quiet, we gardina in girdagum, theodsininga thrimgefrunon, Evelyn recited, her voice resonating with the cadence of the ancient language. Listen, we have heard of the glory of the Speardanes in days gone by, of those clan kings. Xylo, with their advanced cognitive abilities, quickly deciphered the patterns and structure of Old English. They practiced greetings, engaged in simulated conversations with virtual villagers, and even attempted to translate excerpts from Beowulf, the epic poem that captured the spirit of the Anglo-Saxon era. Their journey continued through the Middle Ages, where they encountered Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, a vibrant tapestry of stories told in Middle English. Xylo marveled at the evolution of the language, observing the gradual shift in pronunciation, grammar, and vocabulary. One that April with his shore suit, the drought of March hath pursed to the root, Evelyn read, her voice capturing the lyrical beauty of Chaucer's verse. Xylo, though initially struggling with the unfamiliar spellings and pronunciation, quickly adapted, their linguistic abilities proving remarkably flexible. They even attempted to write their own verses in Middle English, much to Evelyn's amusement. The Renaissance brought with it the flourishing of Elizabethan English, the language of Shakespeare and his contemporaries. Xylo was captivated by the dramatic flair and poetic richness of this era. To be or not to be, that is the question, Evelyn declaimed, her voice echoing with the passion of a seasoned Shakespearean actor. Xylo, immersed in the world of Shakespearean drama, learned to decipher the meaning behind the eloquent metaphors, witty puns, and dramatic soliloquies. They practiced their pronunciation, attempting to capture the rhythm and intonation of the era. Their linguistic odyssey culminated in the 20th and 21st centuries, where they encountered the rapid evolution of English, influenced by globalization, technology, and the emergence of diverse cultural influences. Xylo grappled with the complexities of modern slang, the informality of text messaging, and the ever-changing landscape of internet language. "Yee, that's lit AF," Evelyn exclaimed, mimicking the slang of a modern teenager, much to Xylo's bewilderment. Xylo, though initially overwhelmed by the sheer volume of new vocabulary and expressions, quickly adapted, recognizing the underlying patterns and cultural context behind each linguistic shift. They even attempted to create their own memes and internet slang, much to Evelyn's amusement and slight horror. By the end of their linguistic odyssey, Xylo had acquired a remarkable command of English across its various historical forms. They could converse fluently in Old English, understand the nuances of Shakespearean language, and navigate the complexities of modern slang with surprising ease. However, Evelyn knew that the true test of Xylo's linguistic mastery lay in their ability to understand and utilize idioms and phrasal verbs, those quirky and unpredictable elements of the English language that often defied logic and literal interpretation. "Agent Xylo," Evelyn said with a knowing smile, "prepare yourself for the next stage of your linguistic journey, a journey into the wild and wonderful world of idioms and phrasal verbs." The Time Traveler's English Tutor, Part 3, The Idiomatic Maze. Having successfully navigated the historical evolution of the English language, Xylo faced a new challenge, the baffling world of idioms and phrasal verbs. Evelyn, a self-proclaimed idiom enthusiast, approached this part of the lessons with a mixture of glee and trepidation. "Idioms, my dear Xylo," Evelyn explained, her eyes twinkling, "are like secret codes embedded within the language. They are expressions that cannot be understood by their literal meaning alone." Xylo, accustomed to the logical precision of scientific language, found the concept of idioms utterly perplexing. "But why?" they questioned, their brow furrowed in confusion. "Would one say kick the bucket when referring to someone's demise? It makes no logical sense." Evelyn chuckled, patiently explaining that idioms were often rooted in history, culture, and even folklore. She introduced Xylo to a plethora of idioms, each more baffling than the last. "To spill the beans means to reveal a secret," Evelyn explained, "and to bite off more than you can chew means to take on a task that is too difficult." Xylo diligently took notes, attempting to categorize and memorize the seemingly endless list of idioms. They practiced using them in sentences, often with hilarious results. "I believe I have let the cat out of the bag about my time-traveling abilities," Xylo announced one day, inadvertently revealing their secret to the unsuspecting postman. Evelyn, stifling a laugh, gently corrected Xylo's usage, emphasizing the importance of understanding the context and appropriateness of each idiom. Phrasal verbs, those combinations of verbs and prepositions that often took on entirely new meanings, proved to be an equally daunting challenge. "To look up means to search for information," Evelyn explained, "but to look up to someone means to admire them." Xylo diligently practiced using phrasal verbs in various contexts, sometimes creating sentences that were grammatically correct but semantically nonsensical. "I attempted to look down on my fears, but they simply looked back up at me," Xylo confessed, their confusion evident. Evelyn, with unwavering patience, guided Xylo through the labyrinthine world of idioms and phrasal verbs. She used flashcards, interactive games, and even role-playing exercises to help Xylo internalize these quirky elements of the English language. Xylo gradually began to grasp the logic, or rather the illogic, behind idioms and phrasal verbs. They started to appreciate their humor, their ability to convey complex emotions and ideas in a concise and evocative way. However, Evelyn knew that the true test of Xylo's mastery lay in their ability to use idioms and phrasal verbs spontaneously and appropriately in real-life conversations. "Agent Xylo," Evelyn declared, a mischievous glint in her eye, Prepare yourself for a linguistic immersion experience. We are going to venture out into the real world, and you will have to navigate the idiomatic maze of everyday English." Xylo, though slightly apprehensive, embraced the challenge. They understood that mastering idioms and phrasal verbs was crucial for their mission, for truly understanding and connecting with people from different eras and cultures. Evelyn and Xylo ventured out into the bustling streets of London, where they engaged in conversations with shopkeepers, tourists, and even a street performer juggling flaming torches. Xylo, armed with their newfound knowledge of idioms and phrasal verbs, attempted to incorporate them into their conversations, sometimes with hilarious, sometimes with awkward, but always with insightful results. They learned that idioms and phrasal verbs were not just linguistic quirks, but powerful tools for communication, for building rapport, and for conveying subtle nuances of meaning. Xylo's journey through the idiomatic maze had been challenging, but ultimately rewarding. They had gained a deeper appreciation for the richness and complexity of the English language, and they were now equipped with a valuable set of tools for their upcoming mission. However, Evelyn knew that one final challenge awaited Xylo, a challenge that would test their linguistic skills to the limit, communicating with people from a future where English had evolved beyond recognition. "Agent Xylo," Evelyn said, her voice tinged with anticipation, "prepare yourself for the ultimate linguistic test. We are going to take a leap into the future." The Time Traveler's English Tutor, Part 4. Future Speak. Evelyn, with a mischievous twinkle in her eye, led Xylo towards a newly constructed section of her study, a gleaming metal chamber that hummed with an otherworldly energy. "This," she announced with a flourish, "is my latest acquisition, a prototype temporal communicator. It allows us to interact with individuals from the future, albeit in a limited and controlled manner." Xylo, ever curious and eager to embrace new challenges, stepped into the chamber. Evelyn activated the device, and the air around them shimmered with a kaleidoscope of colors before resolving into a holographic projection of a futuristic cityscape. Towering skyscrapers adorned with holographic advertisements pierced the sky, while sleek, levitating vehicles zipped through the air. A young woman with vibrant purple hair and cybernetic implants materialized before them. "Greetings, temporal travelers," she said, her voice a melodious blend of human speech and synthesized tones. "I am Zephyr, your guide to the future of language." Xylo, though initially startled by Zephyr's appearance and unfamiliar speech patterns, quickly recovered their composure. They attempted to greet her in the formal English they had learned from Evelyn, but Zephyr tilted her head in confusion. "Pardon, temporal traveler," she said, "but your dialect is archaic. Have you perhaps been studying historical linguistics?" Xylo realized that the English of the future had evolved significantly, incorporating new vocabulary, grammatical structures, and even elements of other languages. They had to adapt their communication style to understand and be understood. Evelyn, observing from outside the chamber, offered guidance and encouragement. "Remember, Xylo," she said, "language is a living entity, constantly evolving. Draw upon your knowledge of historical linguistics, your understanding of etymology, and your ability to adapt to new situations." Xylo, heeding Evelyn's advice, began to analyze Zephyr's speech patterns, identifying recurring sounds, grammatical structures, and contextual clues. They noticed that future English had incorporated elements of Mandarin, Chinese, Arabic, and even coding languages. The data stream indicates that you are proficient in archaic English, Zephyr remarked, using a combination of familiar and unfamiliar terms. Xylo, recognizing the term data stream as an equivalent of information and archaic English as their own form of the language, responded with a carefully constructed sentence incorporating elements of future English they had gleaned from Zephyr's speech. Affirmative, Zephyr. My linguistic studies encompass a wide temporal range. Zephyr's eyes widened in surprise. Impressive, temporal traveler, she said. Your adaptive capacity is remarkable. Perhaps you are more prepared for your mission than I initially surmised. Xylo and Zephyr engaged in a lengthy conversation discussing the evolution of language, the impact of technology on communication, and the challenges of intercultural understanding. Xylo's ability to adapt their language skills, combined with their knowledge of historical linguistics, allowed them to bridge the gap between their own time and the future. They learned that future English had become more concise and efficient, relying heavily on abbreviations, acronyms, and contextual cues. Idioms and phrasal verbs had evolved into new, often technology-inspired expressions. Have you synced your chrono feed today? Zephyr asked, referring to the act of updating one's personal information network. Xylo, though initially baffled by the expression, quickly deciphered its meaning and responded with a witty remark, incorporating a newly learned future idiom. Indeed, Zephyr, my chrono feed is fully optimized and ready to bandwidth blast. Zephyr laughed, impressed by Xylo's quick wit and adaptability. You are a remarkable learner, temporal traveler, she said. I believe you are well equipped to communicate with individuals from any era. Xylo's interaction with Zephyr had been a challenging but invaluable experience. They had proven their ability to adapt to a future form of English, demonstrating the resilience and flexibility of their language skills. Evelyn, observing from outside the chamber, beamed with pride. Excellent work, Xylo, she said. You have surpassed my expectations. You are truly ready for your mission. Xylo emerged from the temporal communicator, feeling a sense of accomplishment and renewed confidence. They had faced the ultimate linguistic challenge and emerged victorious. However, one final test awaited Xylo, a test that would require them to apply all their linguistic knowledge and skills in a real-world scenario, a difficult negotiation with individuals from different eras, a negotiation that could determine the fate of their mission and potentially the future itself. The Time Traveler's English Tutor, Part 5, A Negotiation Through Time. The grand hall of Evelyn's ancestral manor buzzed with an unusual energy. Representatives from different eras, each clad in the attire of their time, milled about nervously, engaging in stilted conversations hampered by linguistic and cultural barriers. A knight in shining armor awkwardly attempted to converse with a flapper girl from the 1920s, while a Victorian gentleman in a top hat exchanged bewildered glances with a futuristic cyborg. Xylo, standing tall and confident in a tailored suit that blended seamlessly with any era, surveyed the scene with a calm determination. This was the culmination of their linguistic training, the ultimate test of their ability to bridge the divides of time and language. Evelyn, observing from a discreet corner, offered a reassuring smile. Remember all you have learned, Xylo, she whispered. Trust your instincts, adapt to your audience, and above all, communicate with clarity and empathy. Xylo took a deep breath and approached the central table where the representatives had gathered for the negotiation. The stakes were high. The future of a crucial historical event hung in the balance, and Xylo's ability to navigate the complexities of language and culture could determine the outcome. Xylo began by addressing the group in a clear, concise English, adapting their vocabulary and sentence structure to accommodate the different linguistic backgrounds of their audience. They seamlessly transitioned from the formal pronouncements of Old English to the witty repartee of Shakespearean times, then to the casual slang of the 21st century, ensuring that everyone felt understood and respected. The knight, initially skeptical of a smooth-talking stranger, found himself captivated by Xylo's eloquent pronouncements, reminiscent of the noble speeches he had heard in his own time. The flapper girl, initially put off by Xylo's formal attire, was charmed by their witty remarks and ability to incorporate slang from her era into the conversation. The Victorian gentleman, accustomed to lengthy and elaborate sentence structures, was impressed by Xylo's ability to convey complex ideas with clarity and precision. The cyborg, initially wary of Xylo's seemingly primitive form of communication, was surprised by their ability to incorporate futuristic terminology and adapt to their rapid-fire speech patterns. As the negotiation progressed, tensions inevitably flared. The knight, accustomed to resolving disputes through combat, bristled at the cyborg's logical and detached approach. The flapper girl, eager for immediate action, clashed with the Victorian gentleman's insistence on following proper protocol. Xylo, acting as a mediator and interpreter, deftly navigated the conflicting personalities and cultural perspectives. They used idioms and metaphors to bridge the communication gap, explaining the knight's sense of honor in terms the cyborg could understand and translating the flapper girl's enthusiasm into a language the Victorian gentleman could appreciate. When the negotiations reached an impasse, Xylo drew upon their knowledge of historical events, citing precedents and offering creative solutions that satisfied the needs of all parties involved. They appealed to their shared humanity, emphasizing the importance of collaboration and compromise in achieving a common goal. Finally, after hours of intense discussion, a consensus was reached. The representatives, initially divided by time and language, found common ground, their differences overshadowed by a shared understanding and respect. The knight offered Xylo a chivalrous bow, while the flapper girl extended a jazz hand salute. The Victorian gentleman expressed his gratitude with a formal handshake, and the cyborg offered a nod of acknowledgement, accompanied by a holographic thumbs up. Xylo, exhausted but exhilarated, approached Evelyn, a wide smile spreading across their face. "I did it!" they exclaimed. "I successfully navigated the negotiation. My linguistic training has truly paid off." Evelyn beamed with pride, her eyes sparkling with admiration. "You have exceeded all expectations, Xylo," she said. "You have proven that language can be a powerful tool for bridging divides, fostering understanding, and building a better future." Xylo, with a newfound confidence and a deep appreciation for the power of language, prepared to embark on their mission, a mission that would take them across time and space, armed with the ability to connect with individuals from any era. As Xylo stepped back into the time portal, they turned to Evelyn and offered a heartfelt farewell. "Thank you, Miss Ainsworth," they said. "You have not only taught me the English language, but you have also taught me the true meaning of communication." Evelyn, watching the portal shimmer and fade, knew that Xylo's journey had just begun, but she was confident that their mastery of language, combined with their empathy and intelligence, would equip them to face any challenge the future might hold. And as the echoes of Xylo's final words resonated through the grand hall, Evelyn Ainsworth, the time traveler's English tutor, smiled, knowing that she had played a small but significant role in shaping the course of history, one word at a time.